Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Meadows reaps Twitter wrath over deintegrating post about Crystal Tomlinson. Dennis Meadows, the former deputy chairman of the Firearm Licensing Authority (FLA), has provoked outrage on Twitter for a disparaging comment towards former PNP Youth Organization President Crystal Tomlinson. Meadows, who has also embroiled into a corruption scandal now unfolding at the entity, was responding to a post by Tomlinson, who was critical of his responses during a nationwide interview on Thursday. The former GLP party senator, in that interview, sought to defend his choices of granting firearm permit to ex-convicts and people with criminal traces after disclosing in a Gleaner article that he believed in second chances. Tomlinson, in a Twitter post on Thursday, said Meadows was struggling to sound honest in the interview. Hours later, Meadows fired back with a response users have since described as distasteful. Like you struggle to remain #BabyMother13, but failed miserably. My effort was not to convince the likes of you. It's a futile effort to convince those fixed on finding a reason not to be believed. His comment evoked a swift response from Tomlinson, challenging that Meadows does not concern himself with her personal life. Dennis, my vagina and reproductive choices aren't your business. The FLA was your business. Being diligent, fair, and accountable in executing your duties was your business. If you had half of the passion for your work as you do for my body, you wouldn't be struggling to address these allegations, said Tomlinson. Meadows had denied claims made by FLA CEO Shane Darling on Tuesday that he was part of a group that granted gun permits to persons previously denied before they had criminal convictions or adverse traces. In those matters, Darling said that there was no new documentation provided by the applicants. Wi-Fi access point in Golden Spring Square stolen, MP pleads for return. Thieves had stolen a Wi-Fi access point from Golden Spring Square in rural St. Andrew. It is believed that the theft occurred between Wednesday night and Thursday morning. This resulted in the postponement of a launch of the Internet Access Service on Thursday. This is the first such theft under the Universal Service Fund USF Community Connection Wi-Fi Portal project, which has seen the installation of Wi-Fi access points in several areas across Jamaica. Describing the situation as embarrassing, Member of Parliament for St. Andrew West Rural Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn is imploring the perpetrators to return the cost to the system. Whoever took it, bring it back. Leave it somewhere that we will know. These things are also very expensive and it's for the good for the community development. So many times people claim that the government not doing nothing or the MP not doing anything. But here we go, doing some sort of good for the community, and somebody decided to steal it, Cuthbert-Flynn stated. Daniel Dawes, USF Chief Executive Officer, has often emphasized the level of financial commitment, $7.5 million, to carry out the worthwhile venture. The MP noted that the theft came at a time when Jamaicans, especially children, are facing internet connectivity challenges. Cuthbert-Flynn pointed out that Stony Hill already has a Wi-Fi access point at a community center and that she was excited when Golden Spring was selected for the project. The most heartbreaking thing is for me is that the one they stole is the one closest to the basic school. There are two basic schools right next to each other, right in the square, and there is also a health center, and I figured this would be great, she said. According to Cuthbert-Flynn, the USF has indicated that the agency will replace the stolen device next week. The USF intends to roll out 189 such facilities across Jamaica before the end of March. Big push to clear the streets of Linstead. The authorities enjoy some success as they forced bus and taxi operators to use Linstead 2 transportation hubs on Tuesday, but questions remain about whether the momentum will be sustained. The effort to drive for the operators of public passenger vehicles to use the transportation hubs, several members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force were deployed throughout Linstead town. They were supported by representatives of the Transport Authority as well as the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation Police. A lot of police were assigned on Tuesday because of this plan to have the drivers operating in the park. The police don't normally have the resources to do it daily. They need more manpower at the police station, said Owen Ward, Vice President of the Bagwalk and Linstead Taxi Association, and a member of the committee pushing to increase use of the transportation centers. He claimed the commuters are not making the law enforcers' job any easier as they support rogue operators who pick up and drop off passengers illegally in the streets. To help get the commuters on this side, the operators place a sound system strategically in Linstead appealing for support. Christopher Angus, manager of Linstead Transportation Centre, which is operated by the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, shared the sentiment that sensitization of commuters is paramount. You have motorists who dedicate themselves to use the park and they are not getting the support from commuters because those commuters take the buses and taxis that operate illegally in Linstead, Angus said. He also tried the so-called loaderman who operate in the town and put commuters into vehicles that are operating contrary to the law. These loadermen are also being accused of passing information onto illegal operators regarding the whereabouts of traffic cops. The loadermen are one of the major problems, Angus asserted. According to Angus, the Lindsay Transportation Centre has ample space to accommodate all operators on routes assigned to that facility. At any given time, we can accommodate up to 60 taxis and 30 buses inside the park, declared Angus. To operate in the public park he manages, each bus operator is charged $300 daily and each car operator $200. Although space was not an issue at Lindsay Transport Centre on King Street, it was a major one for the motorists at the smaller facility on 4th Street. One taxi operator suggested that the space issue at the smaller centre be resolved by having taxis on Kellis and Lower Vale roads terminated elsewhere, perhaps at Lourdes and Dewaton respectively. That suggestion found favour with Odin Davis, who operates a taxi from Linstead to Kellis. However, he emphasized that serious considerations would have to be taken to a new fare structure that is meaningful to taxi operators if changes are made to the route. In the meantime, commuters had fixed reaction to the clampdown, which resulted in many of them walking almost a quarter of a mile from Linstead main shopping area to the transportation centers. Their primary concern is the movement of their purchases. The authority, using the sound system, encouraged commuters to shop only with businesses that are willing to take the purchased goods to the transportation hubs. Some commuters opt to use handcart operators who charge between $100 and $300 depending on the amount of goods they carry and the distance they cover. A handcart driver, Kevin Ward, who was busy cashing in on the operation, told reporters that most commuters did not have an issue with his prices. He declared full support for the drive to get motorists into the transport centers, but he expressed doubt that enough law enforcers will be available to continue applying the needed pressure to achieve compliance. Sometimes even emergency vehicles want to go through Linstead town, and that ends up causing a lot of bumper-to-bumper traffic because of the congestion, Ward lamented. Veronica Barnes, a commuter, was outraged partly because she had to hire a handcart driver to take her goods from the town's main shopping area to Linstead's taxi stand. Me have to pay the handcart $200 to come round here at Linstead taxi stand, plus me taxi fare, plus me have to pay extra if me a turn off the main road. We no have the money, we have picking near gas school, we have to get out this government, fumed Barnes as she argued that taxis can be allowed to pick up and drop off on the streets of Linstead. However, Councillor for Linstead Division Herbert Garrikes of the People's National Party thinks Barnes and other commuters should not have a big issue paying handcart drivers to carry their goods. If I am going to the wholesale in the town and I buy some stuff and I can't manage to take it to the transport centre or taxi stand because it is heavy, I might just be creating a little employment for a young man who might be thinking about going into crime. He is going to build a handcart, Herbert stated. He argued that more shoppers would support Linstead businesses if the streets were not congested. When the town is congested, the police have a difficult time because of how young men committed crimes and maneuver those in the crowd. The police cannot apprehend them. We are hoping that this operation is not going to be a one-off Tuesday morning one, Herbert stated. In the meantime, Deputy Superintendent of Police Barnett, who visited the Linstead Transportation Centre on Tuesday, declared that the police will make the best use of the limited resources available to help keep Linstead streets clear of law-breaking bus and taxi operators. Barnes also underscored the importance of urging commuters to use the transport centers. Gomes called on private COVID test providers to further reduce prices. Dr. Carlin Gomes is calling on members of the private sector to further reduce prices for providing COVID-19 testing to Jamaicans, as she believes the difference between their purchase and retail price is too high. According to Dr. Carlin, the price of the antigen rapid diagnostic test, RDT, is US $2.50, approximately 390 Jamaican dollars, at the highest level on the international market, with the PCR going for US $8, 1,250 Jamaican dollars. She said that private individuals and entities in Jamaica are, however, administering the antigen test for anywhere between $4,000 and $8,000, with the cost for the PCR being upward of $20,000. Dr. Caroline, a human rights activist, said business interests have already dropped the price of COVID-19 testing, but it needs to be reduced further. In the private sector, the cost is too high, even though they have halved it, she said. According to Dr. Caroline, the high prices of COVID-19 tests in the private sector, coupled with the government's insistence on using the gold standard, but cost the PCR as the official testing method, through the spread and lack of containment of the virus on the island. We are really not anywhere near where we need to be as it relates to testing, nor have we even been, she said. She said the cost of testing must be reduced, especially with Prime Minister Andrew Holness stating that full face-to-face classes will be resumed across the island after the midterm break. Dr. Carlin argued that the reduction in the cost and a change in the government's PCR-focused policy would have the antigen RDT test readily available to schools at a cheaper rate, so more testing could be done, which would help reduce the spread of the virus among the population. Meanwhile, Dr. Caroline is advising Jamaicans to still be vigilant in the fight against COVID-19, especially with Prime Minister Andrew Holness indicating that the government is contemplating a further relaxation of the Disaster Risk Management Act (DRMA) measures. She stated that while the government should be flexible to the evolving circumstances of the pandemic, Jamaicans should follow the Asian countries' policy in the early 2000s when the severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS impacted the continent. I would suggest to everybody that until we get guidance from the WHO in terms of new thinking around protecting, distancing and masking, that we do like the Asian countries did after SARS, that they continue to wear their mask, continue to be very conscious about social distancing and hand washing. That is how we protect ourselves in the absence of testing to stop people from spreading it when they are asymptomatic. I would continue to be doubly cautious, Dr. Carlin states. Please remember to subscribe,